Happy Star Wars Day. Thank you for joining me today to my celebration of Star Wars Day, where we'll be talking about all the good things that Star Wars has done in terms of scientific discoveries, as in medicine, psychology and even cooking. But first let me mention that this video is part of the third annual May the 4th Be With You art collaboration, organized by the fantastic Donna. Thank you so much, Donna, for making this possible and for inviting me to participate. This is my first time and I hope you like my contribution. So let's get started. Star Wars is a cultural phenomenon. I don't think I have to prove that to you guys. I mean, we are approaching the 50th anniversary of the first movie, and still everybody's talking about it. The new movies, new toys from, I don't know, every toy company in the world seems to have a kind of a Star Wars toy. One of the main reasons probably is that we are kind of indoctrinating the next generation of humans. Me and my brother were shown the movies by my father. I'm sure my brother will show his children in time. Psst, you're a little late here, brother dearest. The indoctrination has to continue. But anyway, it's not just us regular nerds, it's also even celebrities doing this.
Daniel and our daughter have been watching Star Wars.
How old is your daughter now?
She's nearly 5. It was like a father-daughter kind of bonding experience.
So even children that are much too young to even understand what's going on or understand anything about the stories and stuff, they get Star Wars plushies, Star Wars toys, bags, everything. So they see it early on even if they have not seen the movies yet. And yes, while we humans tend to get a little bit too much into some things, and that is quite a normal tendency for us, I'm pretty sure that it is quite special actually with Star Wars here. Honestly, I dare you to name 3 different other franchises that we are not only as obsessed about, but also which are that old. I'll even give you Lord of the Rings, but seriously, go down in the comments and name 3. I'll wait. Okay, I will not wait, but you get my point, don't you? And here you might say, Kai, this is terrible, what are we doing to our children here? But what if I told you that this is not just about consumerism, about selling stuff? Well, it is a business, so yeah, it kinda is all about consumerism. But thankfully, scientists are at least as big of a nerd as we are. So leave it to them to take this worldwide craze and turn it into something that brings humanity forward. So let's take a look together at all those thoughts and advancements that were made just because of Star Wars. Everything I'm mentioning, by the way, I will leave the links of my sources down in the description if you're interested in looking into it by yourself, so feel free to check them out. But first, an honorary mention, math. At least when it comes to me, math has a little bit of a publicity issue. I'm sorry to all my math heads out there. Math never really was my thing. So yes, I saw that you're using this math as a publicity thing, so more power to you, you really need it, but I did not click this link. So let's move on to the next science. And we'll start with the very direct contribution of Star Wars to technology. For the movies, they invented the very first motion-controlled camera system. And no, it's 1977. We are not talking about a system that automatically tracks humans or is motion-controlled by moving your hands or something like that. But it was basically a robot arm that allowed the camera to move in 7 degrees of freedom and to even record and replay that. So for that time, quite advanced. By the way, also something that is totally normal today for any movie actually, or TV series, or even here on YouTube in some parts. Star Wars was basically the first movie to use actual 3D computer graphics. Again, 1977. Nothing really exciting, but the first time. And I take it back, actually this was pretty exciting. But let's leave the movies alone for now and go to what was inspired by the movies. And one very exciting example here is in medicine actually. In the movies, Luke is losing his hand. Spoiler alert, almost 50 years old movie, so do I have to worry about spoilers? Anyway, they designed a robot arm for people who have lost their hands, for example. This robot arm can be controlled by your thoughts. Yeah, I know that technology is around for a couple of years now, but I'm still fascinated by it. And yeah, Star Wars did not invent the concept of losing a limb and trying to replace it, so you could argue they would have designed this probably without Star Wars, right? Yeah, probably, but the fact that they called it Luke is kind of a telltale sign that they were at least inspired by Star Wars, I would say. Not exactly science, but that girl posted on her blog about what Star Wars taught her about veterinary medicine. She takes movie quotes and tells you what she learned from them. Which is an interesting read, even if you're not a vet. And I'm not a vet. Because the lessons she takes out of those quotes are, I think, of broader use. She, for example, writes about how change is scary, it always is, but also necessary, and it will anyway happen, so something you have to learn to live with. Let's move on to culinary science. Yes, there are so many Star Wars cookbooks, and probably most of us have one or two of those lying around somewhere. I know I have. I know I haven't used them, but I have them. But I'm not talking about those. I am talking about real science here. I'm talking about a paper from MIT. A couple of smart minds here have been looking into how to design something to eat that can change form, like a noodle that can be transported because it's just flat, something easy to transport, and you put it in hot boiling water and it becomes a shape. So when you look at pasta, some of the forms can easily take up about 10 times what it would be in a flat state. So being able to transport about 10 times the same food in the same space, at least, of course, it weighs the same, but in the same space, that could make some things quite a bit easier. So you might say, Kai, this sounds interesting, but there is no Star Wars in the title here. And yes, you're right, but on multiple occasions, the authors have mentioned that they were inspired by Star Trek, so I will attribute this to Star Trek. And from culinary science to psychology. Probably could have found a better segue. There is this really interesting paper, The Fall and Redemption of People and Systems, Potential Lessons from the Star Wars Saga. I won't show screenshots from the paper itself here though, because I'm not sure about the copyright rules for this one. However, they are writing about the lessons you can take from the fall and redemption of Anakin Skywalker. Let's be clear, nobody really likes Anakin, probably.
I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
But everybody, kids or adults, know the concept of falling to the dark side, or at least almost falling to the dark side. Fortunately, in real life, it is not as total as in the movies. Once you're there, there's no turning back. But oftentimes, it can feel like that. And sometimes you might not even believe yourself anymore that there is a way back. So knowing a character from a franchise, from a story that you have been growing up with, can help you believing in finding that redemption for yourself. So this paper proposes to use Anakin's story in child and adolescent psychiatry. And yes, it's not real, it's a story, but humans are using stories and allegories and fables for forever to bring across a point and convince somebody of something. Open your mind, broaden your horizons, get hope again. So I think it's an amazing idea. There is another interesting one that proposes to use Star Wars in psychotherapy in form of video games. Although the idea here is more that there is kind of a common ground when you're playing video games together. It's a possibility to talk, to see how people behave in certain situations that are difficult to really observe otherwise or would take a long time. Bringing a patient into a completely different situation via a video game might help there. It shows decision making, how people share, impulsivity, stuff like that. So as a gamer myself, I personally like that games are shown here in quite a positive light, making them even a tool of helping people. So, very interesting. Unfortunately, just like with the other one, I'm not sure about copyright here, so I won't show it to you, but there is the link in the description. So there you have it. Just a very quick overview in a couple of areas of science where Star Wars had a lot of influence. Would those things have been discovered or thought about or designed, invented without Star Wars? Well, there's not really a way to know, is there? As we discussed in the very beginning, Star Wars is so prevalent in the world that by definition it just has touched, has changed, has influenced so many things, and with such a clear ideology in there, a positive ideology of the light side, which definitely has the spotlight in the movies, I think there are worse things that could influence us. As you've seen, a lot of smart ideas have come out of that. So yeah, Star Wars Day, it is a bit silly, It is very nerdy, but does it seem so outlandish to celebrate something that has touched so many people, influenced so many things in our world today? So if you celebrate Star Wars Day, do so proudly. And let me know down in the comments what your favorite Star Wars related discovery or scientific breakthrough, anything in that regard. I would be very interested to hear that. But let's spend the last couple of minutes to talk about the picture I drew. It is surprise. I think you noticed by now or already in the thumbnail when you clicked on it. It is Luke Skywalker. I have drawn a couple of pictures now in this style. So on the left side and on the right side, 2 different pictures, sometimes different people. In this case, they are divided by age. So we have 2 very different Luke Skywalkers in here. You have on the left side the disillusioned one, I would say. On the right side, the very idealistic young one. And yeah, I wanted to put them side by side because I think he is still, to this day, one of the most interesting characters in the movie. But I did not only chose Luke Skywalker because he's my favorite character. I don't even know if he is my favorite character in the movies, to be honest. But I also really just adore Mark Hamill, the actor. He's not only an amazing actor in movies, he's also just a really amazing voice actor. If I've ever heard his Joker, he is just so good. He has said for multiple times that he will never voice again Joker, probably because he's afraid to be just in that one role, fixed in that one role and not be able to do anything else anymore. But he's just so good, so scary. If you haven't heard him as Joker, you should look for that. But all around, he's just an amazing person, it seems like, at least. I don't know him personally, obviously, but from how and what he posts on Twitter, he's one of the, I would say, good guys there. On the light side, you might say. He seems like such an amazing, cool guy. You just want to be friends with him. So that's why I drew him, and I drew for the first time for a long time again on white paper. Actually, I have been gravitating towards the darker ones because I like to work with not only the dark black color but also with white and really decide and be very conscious of where to put the white, as you see on the right side, with all the white in the lip area, in the eye, in the hair. It just really makes it interesting. I like it very much. But on the left side also, for a long time I was using a white paper that was very smooth, but in this case it is not, and it was a bit different, and I'm not 100% happy with it, how it turned out. But yeah, I will have to relearn probably to really draw interesting on white again. We will see. I think I will do it more often now again. But that's it. That's my Luke Skywalker. So I hope you had fun with the facts and the drawing. Thank you again for Donna for letting me participate in this crazy event. It's so much fun. I hope you, dear viewer, will continue watching and follow me to the next video in the train. If you want to see future videos of mine, don't hesitate to subscribe, give me that like and leave a comment. I hope I see you next time. Until then, have the greatest of days and goodbye.